There is a feeling that only happens in football. It happens when the impossible becomes real. When a team that had no business winning wins. When millions of people around the world look at their screens and genuinely cannot process what they just saw. It doesn't happen in the NFL. Not like this. Not in the NBA. Not even in the Olympics. It only happens at the World Cup. Today, we're counting down the most shocking, most jaw-dropping, most I had to rewind it 3 times to believe it upsets in the history of the tournament. From 1950 all the way to 2022, 7 matches that broke the world. Let's go. Number 7. Senegal beats the defending champions, 2002. France came into the 2002 World Cup as the most dominant team on the planet. They had won the World Cup on home soil in 1998. They had won the European Championship in 2000. Their squad included Zinedine Zidane, widely considered the best player in the world, Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, and a dozen other superstars playing at elite European clubs. Senegal? They were making their World Cup debut, their very first game, ever. And to make it worse for France, Zidane got injured before the match and couldn't start. But none of that explains what happened next. Papa Bouba Diop, a midfielder barely anyone outside of Senegal had heard of, scored the only goal of the game. Senegal held on. France lost. The defending world champions were beaten by a team playing their first ever World Cup match. France never recovered. They went out in the group stage without scoring a single goal. Zidane never got going. The whole thing collapsed. Senegal, meanwhile, went all the way to the quarterfinals. That Senegal squad became national heroes. The image of their goalkeeper, Emmanuel Boudourin, saving shot after shot. The bench sprinting onto the pitch at full time. It's one of the most joyful moments in World Cup history. The lesson? At the World Cup, reputation means nothing once the whistle blows. Number 6. Algeria shocks the European champions, 1982, and then gets robbed. This one has 2 stories, and the second one is one of the most scandalous moments in the history of the sport. West Germany came into the 1982 World Cup in Spain as reigning European champions and one of the favorites to win the whole thing. Their squad was stacked. Lothar Matthäus, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, some of the best players in the world. Algeria were making their World Cup debut. In the 54th minute, Rabah Majer scored to put Algeria ahead. Germany equalized. Then, just 1 minute later, Lakhdar Belloumi scored the winner. Algeria 2, West Germany 1. Final. A nation of 20 million people erupted. It was the first time an African team had ever beaten a European team at the World Cup. The players were heroes overnight. But here's where it gets ugly. Algeria still needed results to go their way to advance. And in the final group game, West Germany against Austria, both teams knew exactly what scoreline they needed to knock Algeria out. West Germany scored early. Then, both teams essentially stopped playing. They passed the ball around for 80 minutes. Nobody tried to score. Nobody tried to defend. Just 80 minutes of organized fraud in front of a live television audience. West Germany won 1-0. Both teams advanced. Algeria went home. The scandal was so outrageous that FIFA changed the rules immediately. From that tournament onward, the final group stage games in every group must be played simultaneously, so no team can know what result they need. West Germany went all the way to the final that year. Algeria went home having beaten them, and the world never forgot what happened in Gijón. Number 5. North Korea eliminates Italy, 1966, the impossible result. This one still doesn't make sense, even 60 years later. Italy in 1966 were one of the giants of world football, 2-time World Cup winners, a squad full of Serie A stars, playing in England, where the host nation was heavily favored to win the whole tournament. North Korea had never played at a World Cup before. Their players were soldiers and factory workers. Nobody outside of Asia had ever seen them play. Their entire squad was essentially anonymous to the rest of the world. Italy's captain, Giacomo Bulgarelli, got injured in the first half. No substitutes were allowed back then. Italy had to play on with 10 men. And then it happened. Pak Duik, a military corporal who worked as a dentist, scored in the 42nd minute. North Korea held on. Italy 0, North Korea 1. Final. Italy were eliminated, sent home in disgrace. When the Italian squad returned to their country, fans pelted their bus with rotten tomatoes. Pak Duik became a national hero in North Korea. The spot where his goal was scored was literally marked in the ground with iron studs after the stadium was eventually demolished. To this day, it is considered one of the most astonishing results in the history of any sport. Number 4. Cameroon, with 9 men, beats the world champions. 1990. Argentina came into the 1990 World Cup in Italy as defending world champions. Their squad included Diego Maradona, the man widely considered the greatest player who ever lived, plus 6 other starters from the team that won it all 4 years earlier. Cameroon were making only their second ever appearance at the World Cup. Not only that, during the game, Cameroon had 2 players set off with red cards. They finished the match with just 9 men against Argentina's 11. It didn't matter. Francois Omambiik rose above the Argentine defense to head home in the 67th minute. Cameroon held on through 23 minutes of desperate Argentine pressure. Final whistle. Cameroon 1, Argentina 0. The opening match of the 1990 World Cup produced one of the greatest upsets the tournament had ever seen. And Cameroon didn't stop there. They went on to beat Romania and Colombia. They made the quarterfinals, the first African nation to ever reach that stage. They pushed England, who would later take West Germany to penalties in the semis, to extra time before finally going out. That Cameroon team, the indomitable Lions, became one of the most beloved stories in World Cup history. Argentina, meanwhile, stumbled through the group stage, regrouped, and made it all the way to the final, where they lost to West Germany 1-0. One of the greatest opening game upsets ever. 9 men against the world champions with Maradona. And they still won. Number 3. The United States beats England, 1950, the original miracle. This one is personal, because this is America's greatest moment in World Cup history, and almost nobody in this country knows it happened. 1950, Belo Horizonte, Brazil. England were appearing at the World Cup for the very first time. They had invented the game. They had been playing organized football since 1872. They were so convinced of their own superiority that they hadn't even bothered entering the World Cup until 1950. The U.S. team? Semi-professionals, a postman, a hearse driver, a dishwasher. They had lost 7 straight international games by a combined score of 45 goals to 2. The betting odds were so lopsided that bookmakers in England reportedly refused to take bets on the U.S. It seemed too obvious. In the 37th minute, a Haitian-born player named Joe Gaetjens flung himself at a cross and deflected it into the net. USA 1, England 0. England threw everything at the Americans for the next 53 minutes, shot after shot, wave after wave. The U.S. goalkeeper, a part-time player, made save after save. His teammates blocked shots off the line. The crossbar got hit. Everything that could go wrong for England went wrong. Final whistle. USA 1, England 0. When the result reached England, newspaper editors reportedly refused to print it, assuming it was a typo. They thought it must have been 10-1 to England, not 1-0 to the USA. To this day, it is statistically ranked as the single greatest upset in World Cup history. And it happened for America, right here at this tournament. As the U.S. gets ready to host the 2026 World Cup and faces Paraguay in its opening game, remember this: it has happened before. Number 2. The Miracle of Bern, 1954. This one requires context because without it, you can't understand how impossible it was. Hungary in 1954 had the greatest national team ever assembled. They were called the Mighty Magyars. They had gone 4 years without losing a single match. They had beaten England 6-3 at Wembley, the first time a foreign team had ever beaten England on home soil. They had beaten West Germany 8-3 earlier in the same tournament. 8-3! In the same tournament, just weeks before this game. The World Cup final was West Germany versus Hungary. Hungary were 2-0 up after 8 minutes. West Germany scored 2, then scored a third. West Germany 3, Hungary 2, final. The greatest team in the world, unbeaten for 4 years, demolished their opponent earlier in the same tournament, lost the final. In Germany, the win is still called the Miracle of Bern. It is considered one of the most important moments in post-war German history, a nation rebuilding its identity after World War II and a football team giving them something to believe in. Hungary never recovered. The team broke up. The golden generation faded. They never won the World Cup. Sometimes the greatest upset isn't the scoreline, it's the story around it. Number 1. Saudi Arabia beats Argentina 2022, the greatest shock of the modern era. Everything about this game was impossible. Argentina were ranked 3rd in the world. They were one of the 2 favorites to win the entire tournament. They came in on a 36-game unbeaten streak, the longest active run in international football. This was Lionel Messi's final World Cup, and the whole world was rooting for him to finally lift the trophy. Saudi Arabia were ranked 51st. They were 18-1 underdogs, the longest odds ever recorded for a World Cup match winner. Messi scored from the penalty spot in the 10th minute. Argentina had 3 more goals ruled out for offside in the first half. Then the second half started. 3 minutes in, Saleh Al-Shehri met a through ball and slotted it home, 1-1. 5 minutes later, Salem Al-Dawsari received the ball on the edge of the box, drifted past 2 defenders, and curled an absolute rocket into the top corner. Saudi Arabia 2, Argentina 1. The stadium fell silent. Messi looked like he couldn't breathe. Argentina poured forward for 50 minutes. Saudi Arabia's goalkeeper, Mohamed Al-Owais, made save after save, including a critical stop in the 101st minute. Final whistle. Saudi Arabia 2, Argentina 1. The Saudi bench ran onto the pitch. Players fell to their knees. Back in Riyadh, the government declared a national holiday. Argentina, who had not lost since 2019, who were favorites to win the whole tournament, sat at the bottom of their group on 0 points. And here's the thing that makes this story complete. Argentina recovered. They won every game after that. They won the final against France on penalties. Messi got his trophy. But for one afternoon in Qatar, Saudi Arabia were the best team in the world. And nobody will ever forget it. 7 upsets. 7 moments where the script got torn up and something unforgettable happened instead. And here's the thing about the 2026 World Cup, starting June 11th in the United States, every single one of those moments started with someone believing the impossible was possible. The US believed it in 1950 against England. Cameroon believed it in 1990 against Argentina. Saudi Arabia believed it in 2022 against the team that would go on to win the whole tournament. Belief is not nothing. Sometimes belief is everything. Subscribe to Pitch IQ. We'll be here for every match, every story, and every moment where the World Cup decides to break everyone's brain all over again. It starts June 11th. See you there.